5859 Mumbai Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus, Howrah, Gitanjali Superfast Express is arriving
We can start, guys.
Yes.
Yeah. So good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us on a Saturday morning. It is indeed our pleasure to have Mr. Sanjiv Mehta for today's AddaVantage session. First of all, we extend a very warm welcome to you, Mr. Mehta, and thank you for honoring us with your august presence. I'll quickly talk a brief about Gitanjali Express. We are a collective of finance professionals from Eastern India now settled in Mumbai. It is a platform for sharing knowledge, ideas, joy, and support in order to grow together and better. Our purpose is bringing diversity and excellence together to form lasting bonds, give back, and discover new possibilities. May I request the host to put up the slide on culture, please? So our culture, we have defined our culture as cherish, which stands for spirit of camaraderie, of always being helpful, celebrating excellence, demonstrating respect, providing insight, willing to serve, and providing a homely atmosphere. As part of our larger objective of knowledge sharing, we have introduced AddaVantage, which provides learners with enriching webinars through experience sharing by professional and non-professional subject matter experts. With this, I once again welcome all of you to this AddaVantage series, and I'm sure we'll all have insightful takeaways listening to Mr. Mehta about his journey from CA to CEO. Over to you, Raviji.
Raviji, you are on mute.
Mute.
Raviji, you are on mute, Raviji.
Thank you, Neeraj. We have a young and charming chartered accountant amongst us who had the good fortune of meeting Mr. Mehta recently. So he was so mesmerized and became a huge fan of Mr. Mehta. Here is Abha Bogi introducing our speaker for the day. Abha.
Hello everyone, I am Abha Bogi and today I am going to start by talking about the experience I had of personally meeting a business legend and stalwart. About a month ago at a corporate sports event, I had the good fortune of meeting Mr. Sanjiv Mehta, CEO and MD of HUL. And I was pleasantly surprised to know that a person who is highly successful business leader can be so kind, humble and grounded. I requested for a selfie and I'm so proud that this photograph continues to be my DP on WhatsApp till date. And with the same joy that I experienced then, I am excited to introduce him as our guest speaker today. Let me begin by talking about what his leadership has done to HUL. During his tenure, in the last 9 years, HUL has doubled its turnover, tripled the profits, and quadrupled the market cap. Actually, the increase in turnover in last 9 years is more than the total turnover of any FMCG company in India. Forbes has rated HUL as the most innovative company in India and the 8th most innovative company in the world. Aon Hewitt, in a global study, rated HUL as the 3rd best company globally for building leaders. Not for nothing do people call HUL the CEO factory. HUL has won several recognitions, including the prestigious the Economic Times Company of the Year and Corporate Citizen of the Year Award, Business Standards Company of the Year Award, the Best Governed Company Award by the Asian Center for Corporate Governance and Sustainability, and the Outstanding Company of the Year Award at CNBC TV 18. In 2021, Mr. Mehta took over as the president of FICCI, Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The list of recognitions and accolades he has received is so long that this session may fall short in time. He has been conferred with the JRD Tata Corporate Leadership Award by the All India Management Association, the Business Leader of the Year by Economics Times, Best CEO Multinational by Forbes, and another which we would all here in this forum most relate to and get inspired by. That is the CA Business Leader by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, ICAI. Yes, everyone, I am talking about someone who is one among us by qualification, that is a chartered accountant. Mr. Mehta is a firm believer of doing well by doing good. He has undertaken a lot many CSR activities relating to water management, women empowerment, health and hygiene initiatives. He is married to Mona, who is also a chartered accountant, and they have 2 wonderful twin daughters, Naina and Roshni. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Ravi Lalpuria.
Thank you, Ava. So what is the significance of today's event? So in this age of Google, it is very difficult to differentiate between information, knowledge, and wisdom. Mr. Mehta, over the years, over the last 35 years, has learned, unlearned, and relearned his craft and has made the science of management into an art form. So what he's going to do for us is going to compress his learning of more than 30 years into words of wisdom in less than 30 minutes. So you can imagine the kind of enrichment we all are going to have. So let us listen to his magical words of wisdom. Sir, the screen is all yours.
Thank you so much, Ravi, and thank you, Abba, for the lovely introduction. And to all Gitanjali Express, I'm Punjab Mail. Yeah, Bombay Firozpur, that's what it used to be during our childhood days. And so delighted to meet all of you all. It's always a pleasure interacting with the fraternity. And can I have someone put up the slides, please? Yeah, so what you all have asked me to do is share my journey from a chartered accountant to a CEO. And first and foremost, I must say I'm a very proud chartered accountant. And while I may be running an archetype marketing company, I'm very proud of my roots, and I still believe my core competencies as a chartered accountant have helped me immensely in my professional journey. The next chart, please. A bit of introduction about who I am. Yeah, my parents were immigrants from Punjab, and that's where the Punjab Mail came in. And this was during the partition of the country. My father was a reserve banker, and we grew up in Mumbai. So Mumbai is my karma bhumi. That's where I started my work. That's where I received most of my education. I'm married to the most beautiful woman in India. Her name is Mona, and she's a chartered accountant, much smarter than me. And we have 2 lovely daughters, Naina and Roshni. And like most Indians, I, at one stage, wanted to be a cricketer. And somewhere down the line, I realized that perhaps I don't have the kind of talent to make it big. But influenced by my dad, who was a reserve banker, I was very clear I would like to become a chartered accountant. And that is how I pursued chartered accountancy I did my articles under Mr. NKP Salve, who incidentally was also the BCCI president. And that's where, the cricket keeps coming back to my life. And, many of my friends like Surendra, we are big cricket fans. I don't play cricket now, but I still love rooting from, the team in blue. The next chart, please. Now, next chart, please. So I will be completing, in fact, in another 6 months, 30 glorious years with Unilever. And if I were to be given back my 30 years, I'll do exactly what I did. And a month back, I completed 20 years as the CEO of different Unilever companies, starting with Bangladesh, then Philippines, then North Africa, Middle East. And for the 9 odd years, I've been running India and South Asia. And now I'm also, for the last few years, a member of the Unilever's Global Executive Board. The next chart, please. Yeah, now what has, often this question comes up, that what does it take to become a CEO from a chartered accountant? I think first and foremost is love for the business. Yeah. You have to go beyond the domain of your functional expertise if you want to become a CEO of the company. Now, in my career, I have worked in sales, I have worked in marketing, I have worked in supply chain, I have worked in mergers and acquisition, and I worked in finance. And I think that's how it has shaped me. And, today I can speak marketing to marketeers. I can speak supply chain to supply chain professionals. I can speak sales to sales professionals. And that's how you get in love with the business. I love my brands. I love my business. And that's what has taken me to become a CEO. Now, I have also had the pleasure of leading Unilever businesses in about 35 countries in different parts of the world. Now, those experiences have also shaped me in various ways and forms. At the beginning of my career, before I joined Unilever, I had worked for Union Carbide. And I was also part of the Bhopal gas tragedy team, which was the crisis team done to manage the Bhopal gas tragedy. Now, that was a tragedy of immense proportions, but it was also a lifetime of learning. What is the role of a corporation? How important safety is? How do you need to manage different stakeholders? What do you do when you have this kind of crisis? And over my career, I faced several crises. The Gulf War, when there was a lot of angst against the British American multinationals, and I was in a Muslim country like Bangladesh, or I was heading Unilever's business in North Africa, Middle East when the Arab Spring happened, or during the last few years here, whether it be demonetization or COVID. Now, crisis is part of everyday life. There was a time when business and management had adopted a word called VUCA, which was an acronym for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. This was a word which came from the lexicon of US Army. But I think the more relevant word today is, which has been done by an anthropologist who talks about the Barney world. Yeah, where it is brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. And that's the environment in which we are operating today. The next chart, please. Now, just to give you an idea about what is HUL, it's been in India for over 100 years. It is the fifth, the largest company by market cap. From any context you look, you would have HUL brands amongst the top brands. We reach over 9 out of 10 households by one or more of our brands. Our goods are available in 8 million stores. We're the employer of choice across sectors. So whether it is the IIMs or the CA rank holders or the IITs, we're able to attract the best possible talent. We are by far the market leader. Over 80% of our business has number one position. And we have a very simple philosophy that what is good for India is good for Hindustan Unilever. And that is the reason we've been focusing on water conservation in thousands of villages and created a water potential of 1.9 trillion liters. Now we've become plastic neutral and collecting more plastic from the streets of India than we use in our packaging. And the results have been very satisfying. We have improved operating margin by over 1,000 bips, and our market cap, which was at the beginning of last decade about $8 billion, has moved to $67 billion. And any of you on the call who have not invested in HUL, remember it's never too late to invest in HUL. The next chart, please. So this was the value we created, about 21% CAGR from 8 billion to 67 billion, very clearly ahead of the stock market or ahead of the FMCG. The next chart, please. Now, what is the high performance mantra? Where Abha was talking about us having doubled the business, tripled the profit, quadrupled the market cap. I think the first most important bit is the growth mindset that you bring in. India, there are very few categories in the country in India which are mature. So the most important bit is the mindset of hunting for growth. How do you develop a future fit portfolio? How do you create the segments of the future? And how do you ensure that innovations are your lifeblood? So all this, I would say, comes under the axis of growth. The second important bit is how do you build capabilities which are distinctive and hard to replicate? This could be in very different ways. Is how do you create new moats around you? How do you create, use data and technology to become center stage in your business? Every business needs to identify a few capabilities where you have to be not just as good, but you have to be a best in class. Say now in a company like HUL, marketing, how we deploy media, how we distribute our products, how do we ensure that we have a very low cost, agile supply chain? Just to give you an idea of a supply chain, we manufacture and sell over 60 billion units every year. About 9,000 trucks ply the streets of the country every day carting our goods. That's the scale of it. So we have to be leading edge when it comes to supply chain. So that's the second axis. And the third axis is what I call as the high performance anatomy. What is the culture you have in the company? Do you have fetish for execution? How do you build your strategies and keep it live in the new world? And very importantly, how do you attract the best possible talent and make them even better? So if you focus on three axes of growth, capabilities, and performance anatomy, then you could become a high-performing business. The next chart, please. Now, let me give you a bit of my reflections, my reflection of my journey over decades. The next chart, please. Now, the first, I think it's an extremely important bit, whether you are choosing your career or whether you are making a decision. Always choose the harder right than the easier wrong. And this is so important for chartered accountants. We should always be guided by purpose. We should always be guided by values. And you will always be placed in circumstances where you would be at a fork and you would have to ask yourself, what direction do I take? Never do shortcuts. I think one of the things with chartered accountants, in many cases over the last few years, we have been damaged by people not having the right values. I think this is something which we need to correct. And there are great examples in our country where you can pursue the harder right and still be very successful. The next chart, please. The other important bit is purpose. Our purpose in life has to go beyond making money. And the purpose should define your organization. Purpose should define who you are. And Mark Twain had rightly said, there are two important days in the world for each one of us. One is the day we were born, and the second is the day we realized why we were born. And that is what should drive us. And once you have a defined purpose, once we have a defined purpose and once we can live our purpose, then life becomes very enriching. The third chart, please. The other is, in a world which is changing so rapidly, we are no longer in placid waters. I think each one of us has to be a student all our life. The context changes, technology changes, we have to constantly learn new things, we have to unlearn new things, we have to reskill ourselves. And if we have to ensure that we don't become fossilized, we have to be a student all your life. You need to ask yourself, how am I investing in developing myself? And there are various ways and means you could be doing. You could have coaches, you could have mentors, you could be doing self-learning, but invest in yourself. Just like you need physical exercise for your body, similarly, you need exercise for your mental well-being. And that's where relearning and learning becomes so critical and vital. The next chart, please. The other important bit is life is about relationships, whether it is collaborating with, in businesses with your partners, or whether working within an organization with your teams, with your superiors, with your subordinates. That's what defines you. People remember who you are than what you deliver. And that's the most important bit. And a very simple way of identifying how good a relationship is, look at the conversations. The quality of conversations determines the quality of relationships, be it between husband and wife, be it between boss and subordinate, be it between partners, be it between teacher and student, be it between parents and kids. So that, always invest time in building relationships. And the better the conversations you have, the stronger the relationships would be. The next chart, please. I have a very simple purpose in mind. I believe in the infinite capacity of human beings. And I also come from a school of thought that none of us work to a rated capacity. Simple. How do I bring out the hero in people? We must remember that none of us are Einstein. Most of us are ordinary people who have an IQ within a certain band, but we have infinite capacity which we don't harness. And if you can harness the capacity in people, then ordinary people can deliver outstanding results. That's what entails bringing out the hero in people. The next chart, please. Is today when you work in a VUCA world or a Bani world, you will never get perfect information. If you wait for perfect information, the world will go past you. You will be way too late. So one of the skills chartered accountants, leaders in business, leaders in profession need to develop is what I call a sense making. Sense making is the ability to pull together disparate information to create a plausible understanding of what the world ahead is going to be for us. And then you refine your strategy. If you require, revisit your strategy. And sense making has to dovetail with data and analytics. It has to dovetail with your intuition. But once you develop the skill of sense making, then you could be a few steps ahead of any other person with whom you compete or whoever it is within the organization. The next chart, please. Now, this is something which I believe is extremely important. ambition, if you are ambitious, it can circumvent paucity of resources and paucity of skills. That's the power of ambition. But if you embellish ambition with humility, what I call as ambition, then it becomes a very potent force. Never remember the house number from where you came. And that's the reason when you talked about Gitanjali Express, I was very impressed because you have not forgotten your roots. Never forget your real roots. Always keep your feet planted on the floor and never let arrogance come in your way. The Greeks taught us what are the implications of hubris. Don't let hubris in any way impact you. But if you can combine humility with ambition, then you have such a potent force that no one can ever stop you from achieving what you have set out to do. The next chart. So that's where we are. We have more than 30 minutes. And remember something, no question is a bad question. Don't hesitate to ask any question. Anything is, you're there. I'll do my best to give you my perspective and answer that question. So over to you now.
You're on mute, sir.
Ravi,
Mute.
I'm afraid you're speaking to yourself.
No, I'm not on mute.
Now you are. Now we can.
I'm not on mute.
Now we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, that was very enlightening, sir. Now, my question is, sir, when you passed out as a chartered accountant, what were your dreams? Like, did you think at that time that you will you planned your career as a corporate leader?
Yeah. So thank you for that question. I was very clear that I will not get into profession because I wanted to be a part of a large organization. Yeah, I wanted to do something which is big. But certainly, under no circumstances could I have dreamt at that stage. I was ambitious, but I don't think I dreamt that I would be heading Hindustan Unilever. Certainly not. Yeah, and I also, Raviji, believe in living in the present. If you don't live in the present and just aspire for reaching the star, you need to be ambitious. But be focused on current delivery, and then it should be a staircase to growth rather than standing at the foothills of the mountains and thinking with one leap I'll get to the peak of the mountain. Life is not that way. It doesn't happen that way. So live in the present, build your muscles, keep learning, keep climbing, and then the peak will be yours. Okay.
So, sir, often it is said that HUL is the cradle of business leaders in India. So, what is that extra which the HUL does, which others don't do?
Yeah. Thank you so much. We have over the years, there are about 400 CXOs in the country who proudly wear a badge trained by HUL. So there is a certain unique capacity and capability we have in building leaders. I think the first, it starts with a very strong employer brand. And what an employer brand does for us is it enables us to attract the best possible talent. Yeah, so employer brand is very important. And there are various ways and means of building an employer brand. But then when we recruit a talent, we make leaders out of people. We have a very intensive program where people spend time in rural India, people spend time in different functions, where even today, Raviji, I would spend a couple of days working the markets and going to consumers' homes to understand कि वो कपड़े कैसे धोते हैं या उनके किचन में क्या हो रहा है, क्या products use कर रहे हैं. We still do that as a regular course. And I don't travel to any city without going to the markets. So I spend time with the grocers, understand what the pain points are, understand what is happening to our competitors, understand what brands are selling well and they don't sell well. And then we make our leaders go through different functions to make them understand. Then at a very young age, we give them immense responsibility to run big brands, hundreds of crores, thousands of crores. We give them big responsibility. Then we send them to different parts of the world to train them so that they can develop the leadership expertise in an environment which is alien to them. If people are grown up in a certain company, in a certain country, you know everyone around you. But when you pick you up and send you to a different alien environment, that is how you groom your leadership. Yeah, because you don't know anyone in that. You don't know the culture. You don't know the practices. And there you build your muscle and become successful. Then you develop. Most of the people in my management committee are people who have worked in different parts of the world in Unilever, and that's how they've honed their skills. And the other thing, Raviji, you may often ask a question, what does it take to get to the top leadership team of HUL, for instance? And I always talk about the 3 C's. One is the contribution. Yeah, your career should be littered with what you have contributed to develop the business. So that's point number 1. The second important bit is capabilities and competencies. Have you upgraded your skills? Have you developed new muscles? How are you building new skills, new capabilities? So that's the second C. And the third important bit is character. And the character supersedes the first 2. Are you a good team player? Yeah. Are you having the highest standard of integrity? And when I talk of integrity, not putting a hand in the till, which no one does in a company, but intellectual integrity. Yeah, is how do you deal with people? How do you respect people? And everyone is good in dealing with the superiors, but we also test how good are you in dealing with the person, the lowest rung in the organization. Yeah, do you have pioneering spirit? Do you own accountability? Responsibility is given, accountability is taken. So the 3 C's are very important for us. Contribution, competencies, and character.
Okay, thank you. May I request all the participants, whoever want to ask queries, to put the queries in the chat box, and also may raise hands. So I have already got some questions now. So can I ask, can I call out the names of people who have given me the questions? Mr. Sachin Bharatia, the partner at Lighthouse.
Thank you, Raviji. Thank you, Sanjiv. I must say that you talked about humility, and there cannot be a better example of you coming and talking to us. It also shows your greatness. A bunch of chartered accountants who are yet figuring out, the next way forward in life for a person of your status to come and talk to us. I have absolutely no word to express our gratitude. On that related note, on slide number 12, you made a very good point about never stop learning. And, given you talked about 9 out of the 10 households where Hindustan Unilever is already selling its product, I would love to hear your views, the way India consumption pattern is changing, how you see this, what you're seeing through your eyes, how it is evolving over the next 10 years, where you see India consumption by 2030.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that question. First, I think we must accept that India is not a homogeneous country. There's no one India. And that is the reason why in HUL, about 8-9 years back, we crafted a strategy called Winning in Many Indias. Yeah. And if you were to look at consumption today, we are a $3 trillion economy, but our per capita on an average income is just about $2,000. And then also, if you were to break it, there would be about 40 to 50% of the population whose consumption would be just about 15 or 20% of the total consumption. So it is very skewed. So on one hand, you will see existing categories, the penetration go up and the consumption go up. Yeah. On the other hand, as the country develops, you will also see premiumization taking place. Yeah. So there will be masstige, there will be prestige products, there will be products which offer higher order benefits. Those would also come. Now, you could be a niche player. You could play only on the masstige or prestige, or you could be playing on the mass and popular end. Or if you have big ambition, like a company like HUL, then we would play across the spectrum, what we call as the straddling the price benefit pyramid. Yeah. So just to give you an example, in a hair category, our largest selling SKU is a 1 rupee shampoo of Clinic Plus. And on the top end, you have a 435 rupee hair oil called Indulekha for 100 ml. So that is the spread that you have. And across that, we've got different brands. Yeah, for family health, we have Clinic Plus. For mass beauty, we have Sunsilk. If you want salon kind of hair at home, then you have Tresemme. If you want to repair your hair, then you have Dove. And if you want Ayurvedic shampoo, then you have Indulekha. So that is how we straddle. So each company, each business has to determine where do you want to play. If you were to look at FMCG sector, our per capita consumption is about $45 per annum. Now, if you were to compare it with, say, China, China is 3x. If you were to compare with Indonesia, it is 2x. If you were to compare with Philippines, it is 5x. So the runway to grow is massive. And private consumption is the largest part of the country's GDP, and it will remain so. Yeah. So India, as it prospers, the consumption is bound to grow. But you determine where do you want to play and where do you want to win and how do you want to win.
Thank you so much.
So the next question is from Amit Dalmia, Senior Managing Director, Blackstone. Amit ji, please.
Thanks, Ravi. Thanks, Sanjiv. Thank you for really sharing your nuggets of wisdom. We all know Unilever is a leadership factory, and listening to the leader of the leadership factory is truly a masterclass. And being a product of the same alma mater, Unilever, I can relate to your messages. And I fully echo that Unilever is a great platform for learning business in this corporate world. The kind of exposure which the company gives is absolutely unprecedented. And having seen the companies across, when I interact with multiple companies, the knowledge which I have gained during that process is keeping me in good state. So thank you for that. Sanjiv, you talked about the Bani world. I think it's from VUCA to Bani, and the huge amount of unprecedented events and volatility what we are seeing across. Many of our companies are actually having massive margin pressure and so on. And this fundamentally poses challenge to every aspect of the business, so whether it's leadership, business model, business processes, and everything. Any guidance would you have for the organization?
Yeah, it's certainly. I mean, let me give you a few thoughts, I think, which would be applicable to most companies. Yeah. If we were to look at the decades of 90s or the first decade, second decade of this millennium, most businesses were driving for efficiency and productivity. Yeah. Very few business really talked about resilience. And resilience entails spare capacity. The challenge is, where in your value chain will you drive for efficiency, and where in your value chain would you build resilience? But that's extremely important. And those companies who are more resilient have done much better during COVID than those who were less resilient. Yeah. But COVID is not going to be the only crisis facing us. There'll be many crises. So resilience is very important. Linked to resilience is adaptability. Yeah. how quickly you can adapt to changing circumstances. And linked to adaptability, Amit, is sense making. And unless you are able to put disparate information together, you would not be able to adapt yourself to the changing circumstances, or you'll be way too late. And the third important bit, if I may leave it with you, is speed and agility. Now, speed and agility is not linked to clock time. It's not linked to clock time. I think there are three important criteria of speed and agility. First is how quick you are in spotting opportunities and challenges. So that's the first part of being speedier and agile. The second part is once you've spotted a challenge or an opportunity, how speedy you are in taking decisions. What do you do about it? Do you act? Do you not act? Do you change course? Do you adjust your sails? And the third important bit is once you have taken a decision, how fast you are in executing it. Now, the difference, the winner in the new world is not going to be the big beating the small. It will be the fast beating the slow. Yeah. So those are important, I would believe, is resilience, adaptability, sense making, speed and agility. And you bring it to your organization and you will keep winning.
Thanks.
Thank you. Now the next question is from Rakesh Soni, our founder member and group director, Times Group. Rakesh Soni, please.
Hi, Sanjiv.
Hi, Rakesh.
Hi. No, so I think, first of all, thanks to be here. And I must share with all the members of our club that you wrote a note called Reimagining FMCG in India. And that note has been sort of a framework for all the FMCG companies. And I was part of one, Tata Consumer. And every time we would have a discussion in our boardrooms, that would be the note that would be circulated to all the board members. And I think it has helped shape not just your company, but many companies in this country. So I think that is the hallmark of a leader, where you don't just aspire for yourself, but aspire for the entire industry. And I think you've done it beautifully. Coming to your point on WIMI, and that's a acronym that you sort of coined, and it talks about mindset rather than geographies.
Yeah.
You talked about dividing the country into 15 parts on based on mindset. So it was very intriguing, and I never got a chance to speak to you on that. Where did you get this idea of breaking the country into mindset and not in geography?
Yeah. So I'll tell you something. When I was running North Africa, Middle East, the 25 countries that were under my command, they had more in common than the 30 states of India. Yeah. There, if you look at it, there was one predominant culture, one predominant language, Arabic. Yeah, the culture was predominantly Islamic in nature. अगर आप हमारे देश में जाएं, तो लोगों की सोच अलग है, बोलना अलग है, खाना पीना अलग है. Our competitors are different, habits are different, our beauty quotient is different. Let me explain what beauty is. Yeah, women in the audience would be able to get it much better. In some parts of the country, they put more emphasis on eyes than on any other part of the body. In some part of the country, they put more emphasis on hair than on any other part of the body. Yeah. In some part of the body, they put more emphasis on your tone of your skin than on any other thing. So India is very diverse. And before you embark on winning in many Indias, you have to unlock your mind that you can't treat. I'll tell you how I sold this to my management company. One of the sins I tell them is averaging. Averaging is a sin. And to bring home the point of winning in many Indias, I told my management committee that if today Mukesh Bhai were to come and enter the boardroom, on an average, all of us would be billionaires. how irrelevant it is, averaging. Yeah. So when you are operating in a big country like India, never go by averages. Peel the onion. Look at the distinctiveness of India. Today, I'll tell you, हमारा जो लक्स साबुन है, आप different जगह जाएंगे भारत में, तो उसकी जो fragrance है, you will find it different.
Wow.
अगर आप red label चाय लेंगे, same red label tea.
Yeah.
For the same price, the blend is different depending on the palate of different Indians. That is how we have brought winning in many Indias to life. But first, it has to start with your mindset of de-averaging and not going by averages.
Thank you so much. I think that was very enlightening. Thank you, Raviji.
So next is Anup Kumar Agrawal, South Asia lead of FinTech International Finance Corporation.
Thank you, Raviji. Thank you so much, Sanjiv. First of all, I want to share a small story. And this is one of the early lessons I learned from Hindustan Lever. So when I completed my CA, I was very interested to join Levers. And I was called for, during those days, the approach was, okay, you first go for a group discussion and then interview. And this is, I'm talking mid 1995, November 1995, I passed out. And so we used to read a lot competition success review, and that's what actually taught me that, okay, you need to talk a lot and all that stuff. So 10 of us were in the room in Calcutta, and a topic was given. And I was one of the ones who was also talking a lot in the room. And I was, after 1 hour when I came out of the room, I thought, oh, wow, I'll get selected. But I was rejected. So one of the early lessons I learned is when you are in a group, you should also let others talk.
That's right.
And when you shared your presentation, I was connecting with so many beautiful words of wisdom that you shared. One of the interesting things was, bring out the hero in a person, right? So these are some really wonderful learning lessons. And, after 25 years of professional journey, and I can relate to each of those. Now, coming to a question here is one of the important discussions right now in the boardrooms is disruption and startup world, technology. Of course, Levers is very strong, in terms of products, brands, distribution, and leadership and team, etc. Is that really a concern that bothers you also in the boardroom?
Oh, very much.
And how do you deal with it? What issues?
Yeah.
And so on. Thank you so much.
Disruption is something which is going to be faced by every industry in every country. And the challenge always is, how do you reinvent yourself? How do you disrupt yourself rather than someone else disrupting you? So about 6 years back, we started a journey called Reimagining HUL, with an intent to make HUL the most intelligent consumer goods enterprise. Classically, a consumer goods enterprise is a linear value chain. You source, make, distribute, and market the product. That's how you do. In today's world, instead of a linear value chain, you can make ecosystems. You can make a consumer ecosystem, you can make a customer ecosystem, you can make an operations ecosystem, and then you can have data and technology center stage. Now just think of it, how much data as a company we generate? We reach about 95% of the households in the country. We have over 3,000 SKUs, sold in 8 million stores. Just do the combination and you will realize the quantum of data that we have is massive. So we started on this journey. And just to give you a few examples, today, our Shikhar app is the most adopted app by the retail stores in the country. 8 lakh stores use our Shikhar app. Yeah. And on the back end, the Para factory is the first factory which has been rated by the World Economic Forum, first FMCG factory in the country, by the World Economic Forum as a lighthouse digital factory, completely digitized. Yeah. And every part of our business today, we are bringing in data and technology center stage. The way we do decision making, we are building Bayesian networks for that. So we are supplementing human decision making based on Bayesian networks. And every part of our business is being impacted by data and technology today. So the only way is, how do you create new modes and new capabilities? You know, many times people talk about that insurgents can disrupt. And yes, it does happen. It does happen when an incumbent does not change. But we are here to prove that elephants can also dance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now, next question is from Sumit Sangai, National Head, Corporate Banking, ICICI Bank. Sumit Sangai, please.
Thank you, Ravi ji, and thank you, Sanjiv ji. First of all, thank you for taking out time out of a busy schedule. And sure that, in fact, I went through each of the slides and there is a lot of wisdom in each of the slides. So in fact, I'll just pick up one question from your one slide, which is ambition and humility. Now, a lot of times, you know, and we are seeing this across the corporate India, that humility is becoming a very, very important piece. And it is very different from arrogance. But a lot of times, you know, the other thought of the teams at the ground is that, you know, our humble leaders, strong leaders. What is your take on that? And, you know, and we have seen that, you know, the arrogance, especially in the corporate world, in the VUCA world or the Bani world, and I read your article on the Bani recently, how different it is and how important it is for us, especially to remain deep-rooted and be humble, and how important to play a role in the next world in the next 10 years.
Yeah, you know, that's a very valid question. And you know, one must realize that there are many variables in life which are not under our control. Yeah. So whatever you may call it being in the right place at the right time. You may call it good fortune, good luck, fate. But, you know, if we think that our success is all dependent because of our skills, then we are sadly mistaken. Sadly mistaken. And what arrogance does, it leads you to hubris and taking wrong decisions. When you start believing you're an almighty and what you do, is absolutely the right thing to do, then it's the beginning of an end. But when you are grounded, when you have humility, you will not hesitate to learn from your competitors. You will not hesitate to learn from your subordinate. Yeah, and you will never let arrogance take the better of you. So being grounded and being humble, I think, is extremely important for success. You know, there was a time when people used to look at leaders like Lee Iacocca, for instance. And people who would stand on the pulpit, be great orators, and sway the audience with the talk, be very arrogant, very macho, and you would feel, yeah, that's what leadership is all about. But a lot of study has been done by schools like Harvard Business School to determine and define. And they have come to a very clear conclusion that the servant leader is the most successful leader. And you can't be a servant leader if you're arrogant.
Thank you very much.
The next question is from Sanjay Agrawal, Director, Care Rating. Sanjay Agrawal.
Yeah, good morning, Sanjiv.
Okay.
Yeah, we in Gitanjali have members who are at CXO level 2 and beyond in various organizations. So how we as a forum can support such members to move to, let's say, a CEO position or something beyond that?
Yeah. Is, one of the best ways you can support as Gitanjali Express is you should have more CEOs come and speak to your people. That's one best way. Yeah. If you look around us, there are many chartered accountants who have gone away just from pure accounting and finance into the world of business. Aditya Puri, for instance, who built HDFC Bank, he was a chartered accountant. So look around successful chartered accountants who are business leaders, bring them in and have them speak to your people, which will be an inspiration. But I think the most important bit, which I was telling you, for chartered accountants to transit from just the domain skills to general management skills, they have to get into uncharted waters. When I was a 27-year-old, I moved to sales and marketing. Yeah, it was a completely different world for me. It was a world which was dominated by MBAs. And I moved in and I was very clear. For me, it is not about testing the water with the toes. I'll do a full body immersion. I remember sitting in a van with a van salesman and spending 2 weeks in Bastar district. That time, thankfully, there were no insurgents, but it was perhaps the most backward district in the country. मैं ढाबे में सोता था, नदी में नहाता था. But in 2 weeks, I understood what rural selling and marketing entailed. So the only way for chartered accountants, if they have to become CEOs, is to get their hands dirty, get into the world of business, get into uncharted waters, and then new vistas will open up for them.
So taking an example out of it, do you also suggest that we should encourage more let's say, finance chartered accountants or chartered accountant to finance and accounting fields? Other than that, let's say those in sales and all.
I'll tell you. In my last 8-9 years, we had my fourth CFO, and I had one wonderful CFO, Balaji. And he is now the CFO. Many of you would be knowing of Tata Motors.
Tata Motors.
Yeah, great guy. And he was not a chartered accountant. He was an MBA. So, you know what a basic training does? It teaches you what to learn and how to learn. But there is something called aptitude and attitude. And that determines what is the direction in which you want to take your career. If a chartered accountant can be a CEO, there is no reason why a non-CA cannot be a good finance professional.
Thank you, Sanjay. Now, next question is from Manish Gangwal, President and CFO of Gulf Oil Lubricants India Limited.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. It's an absolute privilege
Hi, Manish.
to have you and to listen to you again. And when I say again, you will recollect, sir, our MD Ravi Chawla approached you a few years ago to have a short video recorded for our strategy session, leadership strategy.
Yeah.
And you were kind enough to do that. And I recollect, and we have played that video and listened to it many times since then in our strategy sessions. But one thing which came out of, and one line which I recollect very clearly is you said culture is strategy for breakfast. It's from, you quoted Peter Drucker's line there. And that was 3-4 years ago. Since then, world has changed. We have seen a pandemic, which is in centuries. We have seen a recession. We have seen a war, which happens again in decades. All three has happened in last 3 years, since then. how do you see the organizations coping to this change, and whether they should be still giving equal importance to culture versus strategy, or should there be a change in because of external environment?
Sure. Strategy is very important. If you do not have strategic clarity, then you would be like a rudderless boat. You won't know in which direction to go. And what strategy does is allows you to define where are you going to play and where you're not going to play. It allows you to define what will it take to win. It allows you to define what are the capabilities you need to win. Yeah? So strategy is important. It is necessary, but it is not a sufficient condition to win. And that is where the culture comes in. What is the culture you have of execution? What is the culture you have of high performance? How do you reward merit in the organization? How do you ensure that it is only merit which determines success and not any other extraneous factors? So those are very important. Culture can be felt. Yeah, it is difficult to describe, but easy to feel. And so I would always say, strategy, agar aap nahi kar pao, you can always get Bain and BCG and McKinsey to do it for you. Agar execute kaun kare, wo to aapko hi karna padega. Right? And that is the reason why culture of an organization determines your longevity, determines your success, and determines how you can reinvent yourself.
And more so in the resilient times when you need resilience.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your.
So I think we have come, sir, we'll take only 5 minutes more because it's already 12 o'clock. And I think in sum up, if I have to sum up, I can only say that Sanjiv Mehta knows the way, shows the way, and goes the way. So that is how he works. So now I request our founding president, Mr. Sachin Bharatia, to unveil our the latest CSR activity. Mr. Sachin Bharatia, please.
Thank you, Raviji. Sanjiv, it's an absolute honor for us to talk about this today in your presence. When we started this platform, we had a dream of supporting. CA education has changed our life for sure. I come from Bihar, Hindi medium CA, और मुझे बहुत गर्व है इस बात पे कि मैंने हिंदी में CA किया और मैं इंग्लिश का बिजनेस कर रहा हूँ, which is a private equity, and I manage offshore money. But I think this country's culture has given me the confidence to do what I do, and absolutely salute and respect. Learning from that, we had a dream of sponsoring, supporting some of students who are otherwise not able to do this, because of financial limitations. And Gitanjali has been at the forefront. And very recently, we started a program, and under which we have sponsored one student from Odisha, 50 kilometers from Rourkela, which is a steel plant known to everybody this place. And this student has now come to Bombay. His name is Satyam Agrawal. I will invite him to just say 2 words and sort of acknowledge Gitanjali's contribution. So Satyam, if we can have you on the platform, please.
Thank you, sir. Hello, everyone. I am Satyam Agrawal and I am from Odisha. I want to thank Gitanjali Express for selecting me for the first Kautalia CA scholarship. I would ensure that I live up to your expectations and come out with flying colors. Thank you, everyone.
So Sanjiv, if you don't mind, just blessing the student and blessing all of us.
I know.
We hope that one is the beginning. Our dream is to take it at least to 1,000 in the near future.
Oh, absolutely. What a wonderful initiative. And
Sanjay,
this young man should be a catalyst for, and you should be a beacon of hope for many other people. Aap mehnat se kaam kariye, become very successful, and then many people can follow your footsteps, young man. All the best to you.
Thank you
so much.
Now I call upon Sangeeta Junjunwala to propose a vote of thanks. Sangeeta, please. Sangeeta, unmute yourself. Sangeeta.
Yeah, I unmuted. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
What can I say? This has been such a heartwarming and inspiring session, both at the same time. Thank you so much, Sanjiv, for your time from such a busy schedule on a Saturday morning for a group of chartered accountants from Calcutta who wanted to hear you. And what we take away today are not just stories of wisdom, but stories of inspiration too. So heartfelt thanks on behalf of Gitanjali and all the attendees to you for coming together for us. And I would also like to propose a vote of thanks to Ms. Swagata Sharma, Director Strategy at HUL, who helped us in organizing this, to Sunita D'Souza, your PA, who helps us seamlessly in facilitating the whole event. And last but not the least, Mr. Surendra Agarwal, who helped us get in touch with you and facilitated the whole event for us. Sanjiv, I have been hearing you for the last 1 year and I don't know where the R went, frankly. So HUL, everybody has a product in their bathroom, in their kitchen, and a lot of us are chartered accountants, so we have been in those corridors also. So some kind of stories we have, not just in terms of the products we use, but from your journey as a CA to CEO, it has been wonderful, wonderful. I would also like to thank all the attendees. Saturday mornings are generally family time, but we all came together for this, which is a wonderful thing, which has happened today. And I would take this opportunity to extend a digital memento to Sanjiv for coming together for the Gitanjali family. And till we meet next time, I mean, till the next Adda happens, I would have to bid adieu. But this has been one of the most heartwarming sessions for Gitanjali.
Thank you, Sangeeta. So, sir, a long time back, when we were doing our chartered accountancy, there used to be an ad in the paper. It used to say, "We make men, we also make steel." I think we'll not be surprised. Very soon, the Hindustan Lever advertises, "We make business leaders, we also make great consumer brands." So that was Sanjiv Mehta for all of you. And thanks a lot, sir. Any last words of wisdom for us?
No, thank you so much. And, CA is a great profession. And I owe a lot of where I am to being a chartered accountant. And I think we need to, each one of us in our own way, should keep adding luster to this majestic profession. So thank you, Sangeeta. Thank you, Ravidi. Thank you, all of you. Have a fabulous day, fabulous weekend. Look after yourselves, and God bless you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye,
Thank you, Sanjiv.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.